Okay, the weather looks nice today, but lots of gloomy news, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard actually, as apparently there was someone who drove a vehicle into a lot of people during a festival with at least 11 people dead currently. I'm just walking to the area now, so let's get to it in terms of what's going on, huh? This is the only thing I read for the day because it was so big. So apparently this happened at a local festival here called the Lapu Lapu Day Festival, and it was to celebrate Filipino heritage. A person named Kaiji Adam Low, who was identified as 30 years old, drove a black Audi SUV into a crowd. So apparently with the way it was structured, he went into the area where the food trucks were parked. So imagine all those people there were getting mowed down. Now fortunately the main area to my knowledge was like around the school, for example, so all those people were able to avoid that. But you can even hear some of that commentary from people where when the emergency people came in, they're telling them, oh, there's a kid stuck under the vehicle and all that. There's bodies everywhere. It's literally something like in a death zone. Now the interesting thing was I actually passed by this last night after my dinner. I saw a lot of flashing police lights actually, but I didn't know what was going on because it was further down the road. And so apparently he faces 8 counts of murder under section 235 of the Criminal Code of Canada, with a potential for additional charges, and the victims were everywhere from 5 to 65 years old. One thing that was interesting too, with all the videos and stuff online, apparently this is the person in terms of what they look like. Although I have to stress too, no one's actually verified it because the police hasn't actually released a person's photo or anything like that for whatever reason. And as well, there was some interesting details where apparently somebody caught dash cam footage of a person driving recklessly. It seemed like with the exact same vehicle where they almost collided. And fortunately the guy was paying attention, but you can see there, it happened at around the afternoon apparently. And so naturally after hearing this news, the person's wondering, was it the same person? That's kind of interesting if it is, because can you imagine how long this person was on the road for potentially if that was the case? And was there actually any reports, for example, of the person driving there? Now apparently the person doesn't have any prior criminal record, but at the same time it is stated that he had significant mental health issues. So you can first hear what the police had to say during the press briefing.
The driver of the vehicle was the lone occupant, and he was arrested at the crime scene by members of the Vancouver Police Department after bystanders and witnesses intervened to detain him. He remains in custody. While I'm not prepared to speak about the potential motive, I can now say with confidence that the evidence in this case does not lead us to believe this was an act of terrorism. I can also tell you that the person we have in custody does have a significant history of interactions with police and healthcare professionals related to mental health.
Now that's an interesting point, because initially when people were reading about this, the immediate thing in their mind was a terrorist attack, but you can hear the police clearly state they don't think it's a terrorist attack at all, just based on the situation. It's more about someone's mental health. And as you can imagine, that's already getting people upset, where they're in the mindset of saying, okay, does this mean you're gonna let this guy get away with it, where he can claim he was, for example, temporarily insane, so you can't actually charge him with murder? That's happened a lot here in Canada, actually. I think one example was that guy that went in a bus and he murdered people, and he actually got off on that legal technicality where he was insane, I guess, for the moment. Like, that's crazy if that's what happens here anyways. But of course, everyone's wondering, why would somebody do that? And some details came out where apparently one of his family members was actually murdered last year. It says his brother Alexander Lowe was murdered on January 28, 2024 by someone named Dwight William Kemich, who was charged with second-degree murder. And Kaiji Adam Lowe expressed profound grief on a fundraising page apparently for Alexander's funeral. So as you can imagine, I guess it cost them money and so forth, right? So it's really stressful. And during that time as well, it caused his mother a lot of stress, and she apparently attempted suicide, which hospitalized her. So you can imagine everything just compounded, I would imagine, in terms of that theme of mental stress and all that. Although with that said, it's stressed that nothing has been confirmed yet in terms of motives and all that, but this is what is known so far, where essentially somebody drove an SUV, ran into a bunch of people, and the initial claim is the guy was mentally, I guess you could say, not there. Now, is that going to be okay? I don't think so overall, but then again, I'm not the court system, so we'll have to wait and see. It's one of those things too, where it's bringing up a topic where, believe it or not, tomorrow is actually the federal election, like the official day for it. And because this just happened, it's now become a big topic. It's kind of relates to those other stories I read where, as you know, like here, things like crime and stuff has been increasing, and people often say, okay, it's your guys' fault for voting like this or that person in. And in some cases, I would be inclined to say, I guess it is kind of true. It doesn't seem like things are getting better for some reason.
But I left at 7:30. So I left.
It goes a long way, like straight line. Keep a long way there.
Was there thousands of people out here? Just say.
I can take some aerial views, but it's gonna be from a far distance. right, see you guys later.